morning and welcome to Sunrise. I'm Neota Egbe.
And I am Alero Edu. Good to be back with you today.
We missed you last week.
We missed you all too. You know that my Saturday is not complete until I'm on this set.
Yeah, but you had the privilege of seeing it from the other side.
Yes, I did. I did. But it wasn't the same thing.
No,
it wasn't the same
It
thing.
wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't. But
Well,
talking about things not being the same. So you wake up one morning and you hear that something that was 2 naira is now 5 naira. What do you do?
what do? You beg, borrow, or steal to pay for it?
No. Take out the last word. Take it out.
Oh, okay.
Because we're against corruption in this country. So take out that last word.
Okay, beg, borrow.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Full stop.
Yeah, but people are still trying to cope with 30,000 naira minimum wage. And in the face of COVID, food prices have gone up, transportation costs have gone up. When you wake up one morning and you hear that fuel price has also gone up. Of course, there was the one with the discos, which thankfully has been suspended. So I'm saying, all this is being piled on Nigerians other countries are giving to the people to help them cope with COVID. Nigeria is trying to knock its people into the ground.
Alero, I don't know what to say, but I know a lot to say.
What is there to say?
So in the course of the week, we were listening to something at home. Again, the citizens of the country were talking, and someone says, government. So my wife goes, everything has to be government in this country. Why can't we just build institutions so that we don't have to be talking government?
Well, who is building the institutions?
Neota,
right?
There are others who will tell you that there are institutions, but government is not allowing the institutions to operate. So we're back again to government.
When you look at it, government still has to feature in it.
Let's look at it from this other side. Someone says, a Nigerian citizen has the government he or she has created.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow, you're the citizen today.
Tomorrow
you might be in government.
And we are the ones who are going to vote, the people who are going to select the PAMSECs and the ministers and all the rest of them.
Very tiny example. So I know this young man who used to complain about the fact that people in government don't pick calls. But someone has been trying to reach, he's not in government though, yet. He just got appointed, he's not even resumed. Someone has been trying to reach him for like 3 days. He's not picking his phone. So when the guy that was trying to talk me, I said, well, he used to complain. Now he's not even in there and he's already doing the same thing. So is it that when they go into government?
That's the big man syndrome. I'm a big man, I can't pick up let my PA pick it up.
And the thing is, if government or if leadership is about service to the people, sometimes I wonder if those in leadership are actually thinking about service to the people. Because the truth is that our constitution is written in such a way that everything has made provision for you in leadership to be completely taken care of. Everything about you, accommodation, movement, feeding is all taken care of.
Why, therefore, can you not do well the job that you're supposed to be doing?
Well, I'll probably tell you that the resources I need to do that job are not exactly there. And it's beyond my power to stop what has been put in place by the laws for me so that I can take care of you.
So if you really wanted to do the job, you got there and you found that the conditions for you to do the job are not exactly as you expected, why don't you just tell us that and go back home?
Have you ever heard of anybody...
The perks are a bit too attractive.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you heard of anybody retiring or resigning any leadership position in this country?
I'm sure there are a few, but off the top of my head.
I just heard of one. And since he resigned, he's just he's doing his private business quietly. But there are many who will say, I will resign. But would they because of the perks. Or they'll tell you that when you leave like that, your political life ends because
Is in limbo.
the people there will feel like you're not to be trusted.
Well, I'm sure the ordinary Nigerian like me would just say, well, I leave you to your conscience.
It is well leaving them to their conscience.
Yes, just before we go to the menu, GRA roads, Lagos State, the roads in GRA are worse than the roads in my village. And it's like that practically on every street in GRA, and I'm wondering why nothing has been done to save those roads when the potholes are still kind of like tiny. It's like the Lekki Ekpe Expressway at the moment. A pothole is doing its thing crossing the road. It's about halfway across now, and it will soon be all the way across. And it is causing a hell of a traffic jam at the moment. And the local government office is not too far from that spot. So I'm sure that they see that pothole, but they haven't done anything about it. And they probably will not till the pothole has taken its jolly stroll across the road and is causing 3-4 hour bottlenecks.
Sometimes I wonder if there are not some people that come out in the cool of the evening, or in the cool of the night to open up some of these potholes, these holes on the road, just so that they'll have a reason to expend money. I just wonder, just thinking. True, because one day you pass the road, it's smooth, the next day there's a pothole. How did it happen? Or it's expanding so quickly? I didn't say anything. I'm just asking a question.
I make no comment about that.
It's just a question I asked.
The menu.
So we'll start out with a look at the state of the polity.
And then aptly we shall look at COVID-19 matters arising.
Ex-PHCN staff are concerned about their overdue emoluments.
And we shall be having a chat with the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, ITF.
And then, of course, the artist of the week.
And he's a he.
And a bit of an interesting one. But we'll bring you all of this in a moment. You just make yourself comfortable. We'll take a moment and we'll come back. But just before we do that, I'd like you to know that you can be a part of the conversation. The Twitter handles will be on the screen. Our emails will be there as well. Join us. Let's hear what you think about the conversation, what your thoughts and questions are. Hopefully we'll get answers today. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We'll begin today's show with a look at the state of the polity as we continue to battle the spread of the coronavirus. Now, on Tuesday, what's considered a pandemonium. Why are you laughing?
It was a pandemonium, indeed.
I said, I choose to put it, what is considered a pandemonium happened at the National Assembly between the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, and the lawmakers at the meeting had the Joint Committee of the National Assembly on Employment and Labor. Now, his ministry had come up with a proposal to employ 774,000 Nigerians to handle different things around infrastructure for a period of, I think, 3 to 6 months or thereabout. A budget of 52 billion naira was put out for that. But the members of the House of the National Assembly were concerned about the process of recruitment. How is all of this? How are they going to get 774,000? Now, there are different sides to this story. There are those who say the legislators were trying to hijack the process. There are those who say the minister was not according the legislators their due worth.
Mr. Keyamo himself did say that the assembly was trying to hijack the process.
So
And he wasn't going to have any of it.
And then he tells everybody, go ahead and do your process. All the different committee members have been appointed to do different things. Go ahead and do your thing. Okay, so that's just one side of things. And in the midst of all of that, the interstate borders have been opened up so that people can travel from one part of the country to the other. Transport fares have gone up. Again, people are complaining there is no money. And while all of that's happening, the price of petrol goes up from 121 to 125 to 140 to 143 or thereabout. And again, people are concerned.
And schools are about to reopen.
For the graduating
for the graduating students. We're going to look at that as well.
So quite a number of things to look at. So, but to help us, our guests are still on the road. Oh, there was just a little bit of accident along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, but our guests are stuck in that traffic. But one of them joins us via telephone, Mr. Chima Naji, who's a legal practitioner. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Naji.
Thank you very much. It's very tough down here. It's raining and we are stuck in this traffic. Not too far from your station, but not too close either. Good morning, Nigerians, nevertheless.
I can imagine how that feels. But is there any movement at all?
Well, the car sometimes will walk, if you understand what I mean.
Okay, the cars will walk.
Imagine
cars walking. Okay.
So those going to Ibadan will get there tonight.
Yeah, or tomorrow morning. Mr. Naji, you heard some of the things we put out there. What would you say is the state of the Nigerian polity as of today?
I think that is, they used to say $1 million question, but I think this is $1 billion question. Because you just need to get the answer by walking across the street and looking at the face of the next person you meet. Even those people you thought were doing well before, they are all have been reduced to, well, the place where the poor people were before. So the poor people before are now in abject poverty. And you see, what kills is not poverty, it is the lack of hope that you might be able to escape from it. So hopelessness is what kills. And that's what is killing many Nigerians today. And somehow it is explained away either in coronavirus, which is real in its own sense, but it is also being hyped that even if you suffer heart disease as a result of your own predicament, then it's corona. Well, that's good. Something must kill a man. So when you look at the Nigerian situation, it is hopeless, very hopeless. And prayer is very good. But when you have been praying, as the Bible said, faith without works is like flesh without soul. Even if you want to walk, you can't walk because the circumstance of lockdown and sometimes poor management of all of them combine to make things even more very hopeless. Because I know, yes, this is a pandemic that has affected the entire world, but you can see that there are disparate impacts across the world, depending on the sensitivity of those people in the governance process. So in the situation of Nigeria, where do you start? It's just hopeless.
Naji, Mr. Naji, just hold your thoughts. We'll take a moment and come back to continue this conversation. Viewers, please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the state of the polity. We had, before we went on that break, we were talking to Mr. Chima Naji, who's on the road and he's on his way here, but we spoke to him via telephone. Oh, now being joined by Mr. Tony Daniel, another legal practitioner, who joins us via Skype. Mr. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Daniel, we are talking to Mr. Naji, who says the state of the Nigerian polity is bleak. Trying to put it in other words. But what's your take on the situation so far?
Well, it's not as bleak as.
Okay, okay, Mr. Naji. Well, your colleague says the situation is not as bad as it appears. Do you agree? Thank God for technology. We'll get back to Mr. Naji. But Mr. Dania, you were saying that it's not bleak, it's not as bleak as the picture is being painted.
Yes. Things are bad, agreed, but we still have positive hope. I am beginning to see the political will to take certain actions that were before now not taken. For instance, not speaking for the government, but this is the first time we see the president directly intervening in party affairs to help redress certain wrongs, which, if not redressed as timely as he has done, would have had some negative boomerang effect on the polity. Having said this, there are a lot of good things while there are a lot of bad things. Now, if things can be done properly, if due diligence can be observed in the way we do our things generally, if areas, investment that will help generate employment can be activated. For instance, it is so difficult to establish ports in other areas of the country. Imagine what port operations is given to the federal government from Lagos Port. And imagine the fact that we have other ports that can be established. I'm talking because I'm a maritime consultant. No, but the goodwill is not there. I mean, the political will to dredge the River Niger. Though it is something that will ultimately happen, that will give the country not less, repeat, not less than $100 billion. It will generate an employment of not less, direct employment, 2 million, indirect employment, 8 million. The government need to drive this. I'm beginning to see the will to do these things. Now, energy, NEPA, public electricity. We are having issues of this problem. I mean, this problem has been repeatedly addressed, but not successfully and effectively redressed. We've had cases of money and fraudulent activities on the part of persons who are supposed to take actions. There's no improvement there yet. If the federal government can drive and encourage private investment in power, just like we have in the US, power will stabilize. And if power stabilizes, again, you will be saving not less than 10 billion every month. I want any person to wrong me here. That goes to the private individual pocket. I'm the one using generator. I'm the one servicing generator. The barber is using generator. That money will be saved. There are certain steps the federal government will take that will redress poverty. The issue we have, for instance, we cannot talk of polity today without talking about the issues, the incident of COVID-19, the incident of rape that have recently increased. All these are because the rape issue is poverty. I have a victim. The parents are so poor, they can't even eat. Their daughter of 14 was violated. It took the intervention of the king of my town to arrest the situation. The girl was put in prison, in the cell by the police. The victim, I am aware FIDA is involved in another. Poverty. Poverty can be properly redressed if certain actions are taken that will put money in the pocket of you and I, the ordinary citizens. I see hope. Don't forget, when did we start proper production of rice in this country? What is the situation now? Let's look at the positive side too. We are making progress. Within a short time, if Dangote rolls out his rice from his farm, we will be within the 4 highest rice producing countries in the world. We are already number 2 in Africa. Check the data, please. You understand?
Mr. Dania, we get that we're now producing rice, but can the ordinary man afford to buy this Nigeria-grown rice? A bag of that rice is selling at 2,000 naira.
Hold on. But don't forget one thing, our locally produced rice, the quality of our locally produced rice is far, far better than imported rice. I have tried them. It's easy to try. You don't need any scientific proof or laboratory team. Put the imported rice in a container, cover it. Put the local rice in a container, cover it, leave it for 1 month, come back there. You'll be surprised how you got the weevils and the insects you find in the imported rice, and the whitish color substance you find in the imported rice. I will say this, by the time a lot of persons start doing rice farming, the prices of rice will naturally fall. It is because only the big guys are doing the farming right now. If we get to that stage, for example, I am aware that the machine to refine rice, if you are bringing the one from China, it arrives here plus all payments of duties and the rest with 3 million. It has dropped to 2.5. It will come down. Then the above people will start producing that machine soon. When that is done, rice will come down. It is the market we have in Nigeria is even enough if we don't want to import rice. Selling the rice we produce locally, selling them locally is enough to increase our GDP. But having said this, I'm only giving you an example of rice. The moment electricity improves, the economy will improve. Poverty level will reduce. The following, talking further, the courts are the last resort of the poor man. We must make the courts to be effective. We must make the judiciary not only to back, but to bite. Until the independence, don't forget that there was a move by the presidency to enhance the independence of the judiciary. That's why I said there have been recent actions that were not there before. Confronting the service chief recently was a positive thing to me. Then, of course, we cannot talk of politics today without talking of the incident at the National Assembly between Festus Keyamo and the House. I'm not a minister. I don't owe them any apology. They are a bunch of disappointments. And I must commend Keyamo for the stance he took. So now we are beginning to see things that we have not witnessed before. It's unfortunate that the COVID-19 came in and interrupted the progress we would have seen in some of these things. I want to encourage the president to act more. People are suffering. He might not be aware. Port development, that port development is very important. That is thinking outside oil. Very soon, automobiles are being powered by battery and electric sources. So oil will soon go away. It will no longer be a source of wealth. But for now, it is still there. But we don't need to wait until we get to that time. We should now develop other areas, other sources of revenue. And one of them is port. Nigeria is supposed to be a maritime state. But we are not. Our waters are shallow. So it takes people, the vessel have to go to Lomé. We have to go to Lomé water, small country Lomé, lighten up product and bring to Nigeria. Whereas our waters, we have large water, but they are shallow. They only need to be dredged. And I know that there are private companies that are ready to handle this dredging if the federal government is ready to give grant concession. So I haven't said this.
Thank you, Mr. Dania. Let's please just take a little pause there. Let's bring in Mr. Naji. Mr. Naji, Mr. Dania spoke about power, and this is not anything new. Commentators have been saying this now for years, that if power is sorted out, a lot of things will be sorted out as well, including the huge problem that we have regarding unemployment, which has worsened with COVID-19. Now, the problem of unemployment was huge before. Now, it is, if there's such a word, it is huger. How are we going to address this issue, Mr. Naji? Too many people are out of work. So we are going to see more Yahoo boys, a la Hush Puppy. We are going to see more armed robbers on the streets. And it may not be because they want to, but because they have no means of livelihood. They are forced into crime.
the truth of the matter is that, as I have always said, we lack strategic thinkers in our governance process. The government at all levels are suffused with opportunists, those who did so much to damage the system in order to exploit and appropriate same for their own personal gains, and of course to the discomfiture of the society itself. We have always lived on hope, and this hope never materializes. But like they say, hope is like a lily, it never perishes. But it is about to dim. That's why you see so many young people now having BP. So many elderly ones are dying because they invested money to train their children, hoping that there will be some social returns on their effort. And these things are not coming. So the issue of when there is power, everybody knows what can be done and things will happen. But can that be done? We know that if you are hungry, what you need is to eat good food. But where is the food? So these are the issues. When you have strategic thinkers in the governance process, they will go for multipliers. Take the instance of some of the railroads, the rail lines, they have invested this very hard money that they went to borrow that we don't know how to pay back. They invested it in building railways to nowhere. There's no multiplier. So it is a cost center. If you build railroads to areas that are already congested with people who are hungry, capable, able, and desirous to move and pay the cost, you will cream that investment and get returns in no time. But these ones will be so moribund if government does not provide for anything. Look at the multipliers. Yes, we are talking about electricity. Everybody knows that electricity is the basic raw material for development. But what are we seeing in this country? We toy with them. People come and give you what you want to hear, and then they shortchange the people. Every now and then, we are talking about if we get the correct pricing, they will be right. It's the same story on petrol. If we price well, there will be fuel everywhere. My dear, it is very, very worrisome talking about this country. Because you're not talking, sometimes you look like somebody who is using a telephone with an earphone, talking on the road and laughing. You think he's a madman. That's the way Nigeria is going now. Those of us who come to television, we talk, let them just talk. They are talking, their hands are in the public till. And they are laughing with you, laughing at you with their left hand taking coffee. So the issue is that in this country, there's no hope. Only people themselves are trying to manage to create that hope for themselves until they get out. There is no leverage from anywhere. As we are still coming out from this decreasing the effect of the lockdown, what do we have? They manipulated the fuel prices, thinking we are stupid people. That they are market forces. If market forces were going to be allowed, why didn't you have it to be let it be in consonance with the drop in the oil in the international market? If we must even go that route, as if to say we cannot on our own build refineries or refurbish what we have. Perhaps they are waiting very soon when Dangote comes up. They will simply give them the Port Harcourt and all those. They run it down completely. So the point is that if there is no trust by the people on government and what government is doing, it will be mere platitudes, and it has been mere platitudes. People promise what they cannot do. They don't even have the capacity to articulate how to go about it. Nobody says that government is not doing well as a government elsewhere, because the principle of the social contract is that we cannot all put our hands in the same pot at the same time. So some people who have demonstrated capacity and who have demonstrated patriotism and the desire to drive the process are put in charge, and they make things happen for everybody. But in this time, if the reverse is the case, people are jostling for offices. In Nigeria has just become a bazaar of sorts, where you have the people who are supposed to drive the process. They don't have the faith that there will be Nigeria tomorrow. So they want to grab what they can and convert it to dollar And we are told that if you farm, who doesn't know the theory about governance? Everybody knows the theory, but implement it. The headsmen are not allowing people to go to the farm. The bandits are not allowing people to travel on the road now that the lockdown has been lifted. So every angle, life is attacked, and there is no respite, neither for the poor nor the rich. Coronavirus is getting this attention because nobody is going anywhere. If it were the time anybody can just fly out, you will not hear about coronavirus. They will just leave us to our own fate. But we are all here. We are soaked in this thing together. So the earlier people begin to realize that we are all here together, they begin to make this policy better.
All right, Mr. Naji, thank you for that submission. We've been joined again by Mr. Olade Ndiario, who's a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Been a while.
Indeed, it's been a while, and it's good to have you here. Were you also stuck in the traffic too?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I came with my helicopter.
Okay, let me say this. I want to be like you when I grow up.
You'll be saying that.
Mr. Rio, you've heard Mr. Daniel talk about the fact that there is hope. Things are working. Yeah, things can get better, but they are working. But Mr. Naji is stuck on the fact that
It's a hopeless situation.
yes. But what's your position?
Well, thank you very much. As a person, I remain an optimist on all fronts. But when you place my personal life against Nigeria as it is since I was born till today, the picture you see is of hopelessness. Okay? I'll give you two quick examples. I won't mention names, but there are people you can connect with. We've had a situation whereby a governor ran the state for 8 years of 2 terms. And when he took ill, the best that could be done, or the quickest, was to ferry him to Lagos for treatment. And then you want to ask yourself, if this person had, in his wisdom, ensured that at least one hospital was standing quite well, world class in his state, there wouldn't have been any need to move him up and down. That is one. We were here when the president's wife said at the Aso Rock Clinic, they had no paracetamol. That she needed this, she couldn't get it. The man who was in charge as the chief of staff, who should have taken care of that end, did nothing about it. It's not a secret. Look for any annual budget. You will see money being allocated to the Aso Rock Clinic. When COVID-19 hit the same person, he was flown to Lagos. If Aso Rock Clinic had been put right, there wouldn't have been any need for that to happen. I share the fears of Chief Unaji. I also share the view of Mr. Daniel. But you see, it becomes painful when gradually we are progressing into destruction, into perdition, and into endless speech. Nobody that is a private person with no contact in government or anything will tell me that today your life is better than it was 5 years ago. We've been going from good to bad and from bad to worse. And if care is not taken, we might find ourselves at the island of the worst.
Let's look at how we're going to find our way out of this place that we've, as you said, gone from good to bad, from bad to worse. How come? But there's still hope to come out. But we'll do that when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have Mr. Tony Daniel, who's a legal practitioner, joining us from Edo State via Skype. We have Mr. Olade Ndiario, public affairs commentator, who's here in the studio. And Mr. Chima Naji is still trying to walk his car into our studios. Hopefully he will get here before the show winds down. But let me go back a little bit. I'll go back to Mr. Daniel. When you were talking, you said something about hope at the end of the tunnel, a light at the end of the tunnel, based on some of the things that have happened. You said for the first time the president intervened in a matter that that involved his party, and that you think is a sign that things are about to change. But a question sent in by one Mr. Tony says, is there any portion of the party's constitution that gives the president the powers to dissolve an elected National Working Committee? He believes this is giving rise to some other matters that may not have risen if things were done right?
Well, can I come in now? Hello?
Yes.
Good. I don't want to go into internal political affair. I'm only saying that the president has started taking certain bold actions he never took before. For instance, for the first time, he spoke to the service ship in their faces. He told them they were not doing well. I believe that is a positive thing. I agree with my brothers, the one at the studio and the one trying to get to the studio. If you look at the indices of corruption in the country, you will lose hope. But you see, if you look at what advanced countries, the government are doing for them, for instance, in America, divide it into 5, what the governments are doing for the citizenry, and let the Nigerian government do just one part, a lot of things will happen. But the hope I have is based on the achievement via private concerns, via private individual, private company. For instance, I am an expert on subsidy-related issues. I know of the amount of money that have been stolen in the name of subsidy. I remember when I spoke against it, I received serious threat from people. Now, if Dangote cannot be, intimidated, if he finishes, if the refinery starts operating, that will drastically reduce subsidy. Billions will come back. Well, I know there's a lot of corruption reported and unreported. There are a lot of impunity by government officials. The Senate committee passing a directive to the executive. Impunity. EFCC giving out property that they have recovered in the course of investigation. They have no such power. Now, I agree with my colleagues that have spoken that the rate of corruption will make you to feel to have to be hopeless. But we have a lot of things going on for us, and we only need the government to give the enabling environment. For instance, when the road on Lekki, even if you criticize it, it was concession, we are zoning road. China, they started by building roads. What roads do we have in Nigeria? We were going to feel it more now because, what do you call it? If you want to go by air now, gradually they are going to open up the air. Aviation will start operation. They say you should reduce the number of passengers by 50%. That will put pressure on the road. And where is the road? We don't have no road. So a lot of persons that have been ministers for works are getting so much money allegedly, nothing has happened, no road to show for it. Now, you see individuals doing some roads in their area. You see your street, you have association, you are putting security. You build a house, you are putting water. These are the things that the government is supposed to do. We individuals are doing them. It will get to a time, the pressure will make government to consider opening up other ports that will generate so much money and generate employment. Farming, I agree, there are security situation, but you see the West trying to rise up to the situation. You see other states making effort. You see the community setting up vigilante. These are supposed to be the government, functions, but we are pushing the government to do it. I appreciate the level of corruption. I condemn it. And we are doing our best to fight it. The EFCC is overwhelmed. It is not supposed to be a fight. When you want to prevent, when you want to arrest the crime, you consider the cause of the crime. You consider how you can prevent the crime. You consider how you can arrest those, and then you now consider how you can punish those. What is the cause of escalation of crimes in the society? Not less than 50% unemployment. And then we are talking of policies that will enhance people on their own. They just be encouraged. If you have security, if the security situation improves, like my colleague said, a lot of people will do farming. Even me, I will do farming. I will not be afraid to go to the farm because, afraid of being attacked if I go to my farm. That will improve on it. By the time we start seeing small machineries, farming machineries coming in and affordable, don't forget that if you bring in farming machinery, you don't pay duties on them. They're coming free, just like maritime parts too. So if we have these machineries in the hands of a lot of farmers, things will improve. We have a lot of minerals in this country. The people exploiting the mineral deposit are individual companies. Are they encouraged? It is a country where, for instance, in maritime, you have to look for money to buy a ship. You have to look for a way to engage the ship. You have to look for money to maintain the ship. Now, look at NNSL. What do you have left? NNSL, the first Nigerian shipping line, we have nothing left. So the people are not encouraged. So we only need some little encouragement and this country will become great. And this is what has informed my hope that this country will become greater. There are a lot. Like I use candle to prepare for my jam. If I was in America where you have regular ride, I would make the best in the exam. That's why I see Nigerians excelling. Among the best doctors in the world, the best nuclear scientists and all that, best computer scientists and computer engineers are Nigerians. And then, so if you have light here, which is what is the primary benefit you have there, it will enhance development of individuals. Government will be for this corruption thing.
Okay, Mr. Daniel, pause. Thank you. Mr. Rio, this clip that we just witnessed with the lawmakers and the junior minister, now at the end of it, we saw that the lawmakers halted that project. At a time like this, with the coronavirus, with our unemployment figures rising literally through the roof, what do you think about that step that they took?
Well, the step started from the language that they always deploy when they want people to come to their chambers. Summon. Why not invite? Maybe with that mentality, they will know that they are not ordering the person to come by fiat or by force. But in the interest of nation building, they are inviting the person for exchange of ideas and collaboration that will benefit the people out there, that they are supposed to be representing. But when you say you summoned, there is some element of coercion in that. Let's take it from there. We all witnessed what happened. Perhaps they didn't know Keyamo very well. His antecedents as a human rights activist was what came to the fore. And I would say that for the first time since he dabbled into politics, he won my heart. Because without being partial, he was very methodical in responding to the questions. And he said to them, you ask this question in the open, allow me to answer in the open. But you see, the majority of Nigerians out there, they have been made to have a mindset that whatever has the imprimatur of National Assembly or our lawmakers in is all about benefiting them and not the people. Yeah. I expect them to know this and consciously avoid situations that will give credence to that. This that just happened is not a positive for them. Now you have, in the spirit of wanting to establish your authority over the man that came, put the future of 774,000 Nigerians, now I will say, and their means of livelihood in abeyance. People are out there hopeless. Hitherto workers don't know when they will resume to start working again. Some are assuming that they are still employed, whereas their employers have written letters terminating their employment. Most families are now living, when they say hands to mouth, no, they're now living from the ground to mouth because the hands have failed them. So I would have expected them to give consideration to all of this in the interest of Nigerians who will benefit from this. And whatever they found unacceptable in the submission of the minister should have been treated otherwise. Instead of now applying the hammer, what they have done is to kill the fly with a hammer. Unfortunately, the people are not going to be better for it. You and I know it. Half of those who are in crime today will not be in crime if the environment genuinely gives them the platform to operate. But what happens when the environment is so toxic, is so charged? I'm glad that the last speaker spoke on power. Since year 1999, so many trillions have gone into solving power problem. But as I'm seated here today, my estate, we've not had power in the last 48 hours. Virtually everybody now owns generator. And those who can afford it now go for inverter, solar power, and all of that. I've lived outside Nigeria before, and I've traveled far and wide. They are able to solve this problem. Why is it intractable? Why is it unsolvable here? Why is it looking like a rocket science? And then we keep throwing money into it and it's not getting better. Unfortunately, people are now being asked to pay more for darkness than for light. If not for the intervention of the national and the federal government, by now, you and I would have been having to pay more
Okay, so
for darkness, not for light.
In this case now, the National Assembly is done right by the people. Is that what you're saying?
They have not done well.
By
in
stopping the hike in the...
in stopping
in
the
tariff.
hike in power cost,
tariff.
they have done well.
They've done well.
But in
the other
stopping the 774,000 employment,
they've not
they
done
haven't
well.
done well.
So they need to balance that.
They have
out.
to balance
But let's bring in Mr. Naji. Mr. Naji, how do we get out of this dark picture that you painted earlier? Now, Mr. Ario here has talked about some level of hope if things are balanced out. Mr. Daniel is very optimistic. So what's your take?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that in the public domain, I have been very consistent. I will not be the worst hit by any type of economy we want to run. I will not be the worst hit. But a big man in the midst of poor people is a poor man, ultimately. Now, when we talk about what the way forward, would you, any of the journalists one day, for Christ's sake, if there is an opportunity to meet the president, just simple question, Mr. President, where do you see Nigeria in the next 3 years before you leave office? He has no idea. There is no vision. Forget about vision 2020, 30, all those things are essay. The agitations run governance in Nigeria, not the best of competence. When you have incompetence that is meshed with religious bigotry and ethnic jingoism, there is no way the country can come out from such entrapment. What you use to run government is competence, patriotism, and goodwill, and people will buy into it and finish the remaining. I've always said that when you talk about hope remaining in this country, it is the hope you create for yourself. Alero, I don't know whether you woke up remembering who was at Asorok before you were able to come to work this morning. You have taken your destiny into your own hands and asked God to please bless it. The truth of the matter is that Nigerians no longer care about government. And there is total disconnect between the people governing and those that are being governed. That's why most of the government programs, even they look good on the face of it, people are not buying into it. Some people are always looking for how to sabotage it. But because government has access to media, they hide only the failings of the citizens, but they hide their own failures. The way forward, if I want to summarize, is that by the time all of us are completely stewed in our egregious stupidity, then we will now begin to place more value on competence that is devoid of so much hype about where you come from and which religion you profess and what ethnic group you belong to and all that and all that. When you see the man on the road begging, he doesn't care whether you are an Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba. He wants money in his hand to buy what he needs at that moment. Even if it is his uncle that is the president or vice president or whatever. He needs money because that one is not giving it to him. So why can't we learn from simplicity of life? Now I'm talking very briefly on the issue of that job, 774 jobs. On the rebuttable presumption that there was in fact a genuine intention to create that job, except that there were so much rumor about these people are going to do the vaccine if the issue of Bill Gates and so on succeeded. That's the rumor outside there. So the question is, if indeed there is a genuine intention to create that job, 1,000 everywhere, there is nothing wrong with the legislators insofar as there was no plan to share the money. There was nothing wrong asking for a certain percentage because they represent certain constituencies. And those people that will get it are Nigerians. The minister also cannot say that he has not got its constituency to address. And so what they needed would have been to simply save us your necessary embarrassment to go into that private room and negotiate in the other room, if you understand what I mean.
All right, Mr. Naji, thank you very much. Mr. Chiman Naji, he still hasn't been able to make it to our studio where he joined us via telephone. Mr. Daniel, as we begin to wind down, what's the way forward?
Thank you so much. First, on the issue of the National Assembly, I want to quickly say the repudiation or purported directive to repudiate or suspend that program. They have no such power, so it's of no effect. It cannot be obeyed. They cannot do that. If they think they have, they should go to court to establish it. They don't. And I'm happy Keyamu issued a press conference immediately and asked every actor in implementing that program to continue. And I agree with him. They don't have such power. Sometimes they make progress in error. Having said that, I want to refer you to when we started GSM in Nigeria.
Mr. Daniel, real quick, are you saying that the members of the National Assembly did not have a right to ask the questions they are asking? They're asking, how would you measure the success of this project? Is that a wrong question to ask?
No, I didn't say, excuse me, please. I said they can ask their questions, they can make inquiry, but they cannot give directive. They cannot, they don't have such power.
Okay.
They can say, stop that program. And by the way, it is committees that are talking. Even the plenary cannot do that. Not to talk of committee.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel, thank you very much. Mr. Rio, in closing.
Well, in closing, as much as we want to insist on respecting the division of powers and responsibility as in democracy, there is always a need for cooperation. We are not enemies, and Nigeria is at the center of all of these things. Therefore, we should disallow individual and personal interests. The idea of saying that they could corner a bit of that for their constituency, for me, it doesn't sit well. Nigeria is the constituency, not Ogun, not Lagos, not Oyo, not Kranamuda. So we should begin to look nationally, think nationally, and in coming forth with any proposal or vision, the nation must be considered. And when I say the nation, who do I mean? The voters, the Nigerian people.
Well, Guru Neo seems to agree with you because he says, until we prioritize value over religion, ethnicity, and tribe, we will never have leaders.
Thank you very much. We've had Mr. Chiman Naji, a legal practitioner, joined us via telephone. Mr. Tony Daniel, legal practitioner, joined us via Skype from Edo State. And we had here in the studio Mr. Oladeinde Ario, a social commentator, who was here in our studio. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. On Monday, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 announced that the second phase of the gradual easing of the lockdown had been extended by 4 weeks, while schools will be reopening gradually. The ban on interstate travel was lifted as well. Well, many of us know that that ban wasn't really effective, but it's been lifted now so people can move around. So we look at matters arising regarding these things surrounding the COVID-19. I'd like to welcome, joining us from our studio in Abuja, Dr. Ado. Joining us via Skype, I do apologize, Dr. Ado Mohammed, who's Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Dr. Ado Mohammed. Now, do you think that this partial opening of schools is a good idea, sir?
If you ask me, the time is not ripe. We are just caught in trouble by asking that schools should reopen. We are in a hurry to start off the economy. That's understandable, but the consequences are grievous and they are grave. And if I were in position of authority, I won't attend this for now. We are not prepared. Look at what is happening in the US, in Italy, in Spain, where they have the facilities.
to compare, comparative to what we have in Nigeria, where we are highly unprepared. I think it's a decision that is not properly timed, and it's not ideal, if you ask me. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but Doctor, it's only the graduating classes, Standard 6, SS3, those who have to sit school leaving exams. They are the only ones who are allowed to go back to school and sit their exams.
Yes, but you will agree with me that there are more private schools than public schools. How do you guarantee that the modicum level of preparedness is in place before doing that? There are schools in Ijedodo, Ijagemo, and all that where the facilities were not before now very optimum in terms of health and well-being. How do you guarantee the safety of these children and the teachers? I'm sorry, we seem to be caught in trouble. Why are we in a hurry? The whole world is affected by this pandemic. It's not a one nation or one tribe or one, so we should just be careful about what we are doing. And ASU, which I belong to, I said that clearly, that we seem to be caught in trouble. And I agree with them. And I also think so too.
Dr. Shokefu, are you there, Dr. Shokefu?
I'm with you.
Oh, okay. Now, still talking about the reopening of schools to a certain extent, do you think that these schools will be ready to do all that they should to ensure that these children do not contract the virus?
I'm sure they will not be able to meet the standards. I am very, very sure they will not be able to meet it. Government that has the wherewithal is currently lagging behind. If we are talking about deepening tests at this stage, when people are talking about finding vaccines, immunotherapies, and kiosks, Nigeria is still talking about deepening tests to go around. How can you be? It's sure that these schools will not be able to put in place the things that are necessary and needed for resumption.
Dr. Mohammed, let me bring this to you. The primary healthcare centers would always play a major role in any healthcare system around the world. Now, in this kind of situation where schools are reopening, yes, there's a graduating classes, interstate borders are opened up so that travel is happening across the state lines. What role can the primary healthcare centers play? Do they have the equipment to help to minimize community spread?
Thank you very much for inviting me. And let me also clarify that I'm no longer the executive director of National Primary Care Development Agency. I was, the executive director. Having said that, as we all know, primary care is the first contact between any community, individual, or person with the health system. And because of that, it plays a very important role in terms of managing cases at the community, particularly as we're at the stage of active community transmission of COVID-19 now. So how does primary care come in terms of COVID-19 management? First, primary care comes in through infection prevention and control. What do I mean by that? Looking at infection prevention, we've been talking about the need to ensure that we interrupt transmission of COVID-19. We contain the spread of the virus at the community level. Primary care as the first contact between the health system and the community and individuals have a very important role to play along that direction. First, in terms of case detection. Secondly, in terms of even managing cases at the community level, because it's not every case that will go into a hospital setting. Some mild cases will be managed at the community level in their homes and in their residences and houses. Now, how does primary care come into, what role would primary health care play in that direction? First, the health workers at the primary care level need to monitor those cases that are being managed at the community level. Some could be asymptomatic, some could be symptomatic, the mild cases. Now, for the asymptomatic cases, those that have not come down with symptoms, they will manage and see whether they will progress into becoming symptomatic cases. And for those that have symptoms, especially mild symptoms, they also look at them and then see if they will progress into becoming a case that will need hospital setup. That is, then at the community level, the community has a very important role to play in terms of preventing people from getting infected, because prevention is key here. We do not want a situation that we have huge cases of patients, of people that are infected, that will overwhelm our health system. So we must try as much as possible to ensure that people do not get infected. And the community and primary care has a very important role to play in that direction.
Dr. Mohammed, that what you're saying now, that even as the different states, different levels of society open up, the primary healthcare workers would have to play a major role, indeed. But the question would be, how equipped are they for that role you're saying they should play? Or how much of access would there be, for instance, in a rural area? If I'm working in a primary healthcare center and I notice some things, some individuals are showing signs of the coronavirus, how quickly can they access the secondary and tertiary health institutions where they can get proper treatment?
And that is why we should not look at primary care in isolation. The response to COVID-19 should be a national response. It shouldn't be segregated into federal, state, and local government response. The federal government provides overall leadership in terms of strategic response, in terms of setting policy, guidelines, and then doing research and development, including treatment. So that is what the federal should do. So the federal government will now set the standards. State and local governments will ensure the implementation and operationalization of those standards. Now, at the local government level, standards that have been set by the federal government will now be implemented in terms of contact tracing, in terms of case detection, in terms of management of community cases. So we also have to make sure that while having set the standards, having set the guidelines and then the policy, we also support the local government and PAC to implement. How will that sort come? What from? Capacity building, training, and equipping, because we also have to make sure that we provide them with the needed kit in terms of personal protective equipment. Because if you are saying a primary health worker should be the, I don't want to use the front line, no, because front line is the community, it should be the last defense. Because we, as much as possible, the first defense should be to prevent it from happening. So the last defense should be managing that cases. And those at the PAC level should be the last defense in terms of managing cases. So we need to build that capacity, to train them. You need to provide them with the appropriate equipment. You also need to ensure that the PAC is functional. And what do I mean by functional? Functionality does not refer to just having a primary care center that is equipped. No, it goes beyond that. It includes human resources for health. It includes effective referral linkage. So a PAC worker should be able to, at any point in time, knows what his own limitation is about. He should be able to determine if a case needs to be referred to the next level of care. So it's a total package. So I want to look at it in terms of national response. With federal government providing strategic leadership, policy, guideline, states and local governments now operationalizing, and then tactical. So it's a complete package. That no level of care, no level of government can do it alone. So the presidential task force is working very hard to ensure that we contain the virus, but they cannot do it alone. They need to be complemented by the state and local government, and PAC has a very important role to play. And you'll be surprised that it's not so, for me, the consolation is that we've done it before. We did it with Ebola. We did it with polio. We need to ensure that we support the PAC to provide that leadership at the community level. And there'll be interface between the primary care centers and the community. Because one issue that is affecting COVID-19 response now in the country is the issue of trust. At the community level, you go around, people do not believe that COVID-19 is real. People go around without using masks. People go around without upholding public health measures that have been released by the National Center for Disease Control and the Ministry of Health. Why is that happening? I think we need to ask ourselves, why are people not abiding and complying with guidelines and advice being given? The issue, the bottom line is that there are trust issues. People no longer trust, information that comes out either at the state level or the local government level. So how do we bridge that gap? It's important that we should use social compact platforms at the community level, like religious leaders, like community leaders, like influencers, that people will believe, so that people will be able to uphold and comply with public health measures. We did it with, this is not the first time we're having this kind of trust issues. We had it with polio, because I remember in 2001, we had the polio vaccine controversy. People refused to accept polio vaccine. In 2011, 2012, I remember myself and Dr. Fati, the then Minister of State of Health, had to move around the country to convince people to accept polio vaccine. And we did not do it alone. We had to engage the community. We had to engage traditional leaders. We had to engage religious leaders. We also have to engage key influencers within every community. In every community in this country, you have key influencers, people whom people trust and believe in. So we can engage them to, convince people to uphold, and then uptake public health measures. So it's not possible that,
Okay, Dr. Ado. Thank you, Dr. Ado. Dr. Shokefun, the interstate borders have also been reopened, and the PTF did say that transporters should only carry 50% of their normal load. Now, the last time you were here, we spoke about transporters within Lagos State. Now, do you see these interstate operatives obeying that particular instruction? Or should I
the impression that you just made? At no point in time did they stop interstate travel. People were traveling and payments were being made at entry points for people to get in. Of course, there were seemingly semblances of restriction and all that, but it wasn't working. You just had to pay your way through. Anyway, let's leave that. Now, it's a complex balance between what the government wants, what is operational, and what obtains. If you're asking that they should take 3 for their safety, of course, there must also be this shortage in their earnings by taking 3. So they must be convinced beyond doubt that, it's in their own interest. But the other side of it is that how do they take care of the daily returns that they have to give to the owners of the vehicles, who seemingly don't understand this reason why they should take 50% and all that. It is in their interest, as it is, to comply fully, to make sure that we can get rid of this pandemic and then get it controlled and make sure that it doesn't spread and all that. But government must also do a lot to make sure that, what you lose in terms of length, you can gain in terms of breadth for them. That's also important. And that's the reason why I have emphasized that there must be palliatives. You cannot derive the people of their income for the reasons of the pandemic and then not also put in place some measures that to provide some level of succor for them. So we need to really strike a balance between these ends of the divide.
It would seem that transport fares would have to go up again. But I'll ask you this when we come back from this break. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Yeah, Dr. Shokefun, I was going to ask you, Wouldn't the easiest way out for these transporters be just to double their fares?
I didn't get that.
Wouldn't the easiest way be to double fares if they have to carry 50% load to make 100% of what 100% like they used to? They would have to double fares, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they will have to double fares. Yes, I mean that's certain. Especially with the increase in the price of fuel to 143 or thereabout in the last few days. I think prices will certainly have to go up. Well, I'm not sure that it has to be doubled, but I mean it will have to go up to cater for the differential in the number of passengers they are carrying vis-a-vis the delivery that they have to make daily.
Isn't this putting too much pressure on the poor Nigerian?
Certainly, it is putting too much pressure on the average Nigerian. I must also say that in developed climes, the masks are available for citizens almost free of charge. As government puts that in place also, this is also very, very important. The cloth type of mask that we have will only give about 50% protection. I hope we are aware of that. So the provision of masks for the ordinary citizen is also a sine qua non. It's important that citizens must have access to at least minimally the three-ply type of mask that is used all over the world. I think that's also very, very important.
Yeah. Dr. Ado, let me bring you back into this conversation. As from Wednesday, the airlines will start operating again, also at 50% capacity. What are your thoughts about flying at a time such as this?
I think we just need to be very cautious because we all know that the virus does not move. People move with the virus. And one of the public health measures that is meant to contain the virus is to avoid closed space. And an aircraft is a closed space. So we need to, as much as possible, ensure that we put up the appropriate public health measure in terms of people, spacing people, in terms of ensuring that there is universal usage of masks, and then also ensuring that people uphold and comply with public health measures. Because the risk of not complying with public health measures, guidelines, and advice is better imagined. Otherwise, in the next few weeks, we'll see, cases surging, and we don't want that to happen. So we just have to be very careful. And I just hope that as airlines commence services, as people move, we also need to enforce compliance with regard to universal masking. The previous speaker mentioned the issue of lockdown. I think, you see, we need to understand that even for those nations that have done very well with regard to management of COVID-19 response, it happened with very limited lockdown. I can give instances like South Korea, like Japan, like Singapore, like Taiwan. They've done very well with regard to COVID-19 response. And what they deploy really is universal mask usage, coupled with testing and then tracing and treatment, and then other public health measures. So if we can convince our people, to adopt and uphold and comply with advice that have been given by federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Ministry of Health and NCDC in terms of universal masking, in terms of upholding personal hygiene, in terms of avoiding large gathering, I think we'll get there. We'll be able to flatten the curve and then contain the virus. But we have to be very careful as we commence interstate movements, either through vehicle or through airline. We have to be extremely careful, and we also have to ensure that we put an appropriate monitoring mechanism to ensure compliance and enforcement of guidelines because
Okay.
we cannot afford the consequences.
Thank you.
It's better imagine on our health.
Thank you, Dr. Ado. Please, I just need to throw in this question because we've almost completely run out of time. Dr. Shokefu, quickly, I mean, what kind of foods do we need to be eating to raise our immunity level so that we are not easily susceptible to this infection?
Yeah, thank you very much. Plenty of fruits that contain vitamin C, that's important. Plenty of vegetables that contain zinc, because zinc has a way of limiting the replication of the virus. That's also very important. Exposure to sunlight, which can be walking somewhere close to your house for about 10, 15 minutes per day, because vitamin D is also very, very important. And the exposure to the sun daily can also initiate the process in the human system. We also need to take adequate rest, and then principally we must also ensure that we wear masks that gives at least minimum protection. These are the things that are important for us for now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lushola Shokefu, geneticist, Lagos State University, who joined us via telephone because he's unable to get to us in the studio. He is in traffic. And we also had Dr. Ado Mohammed, former Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, who joined us via Skype. Thank you very much, doctors, for coming to share your insights with us this morning. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Please stay.
Thank you for staying with us. This time we're going to have a conversation with the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, which is a Grade A parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. It was established about 49 years ago, precisely on the 8th of October 1971 by Decree 47 as amended up to date. It is vested with the mandate to provide, promote, and encourage the acquisition of skills in industries and commerce with a view to generate a pool of indigenous trained manpower sufficient to meet the needs of the national economy. Well, the Director General, Sir Joseph Ntung Ari, joins us to talk about this agency. Thank you for joining us, Sir Ari.
Thank you very much, Neota and Alero. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start out with your tenure will elapse soon, your first tenure. What do you consider to be your key achievements?
Well, thank you very much, Neota, for your question. It is quite true that my tenure will lapse soon. You may also be aware that I was appointed Director General, Chief Executive of the Industrial Training Fund by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, on the 26th of September 2016. And for an initial 4-year term of office, which will also elapse on the same date this year. With regards to our achievements, I would like to say that I personally think we have performed creditably well, given the situation we met on ground on assumption of duty. When we came on board, the organization we met on ground was one that could be said to be in doldrums, as it was blighted by several internal and external challenges. The workforce was restive, and they were also at daggers drawn with management, just as other stakeholders and clientele were openly expressing dissatisfaction with the services of the fund. So what we did immediately on assumption was to put our heads together and set up a committee to review the fund's mandate and its operations. And in doing that, we came up with a comprehensive and robust policy document known as the ITF Reviewed Vision strategies for mandate actualization. In this document, which was meant to commence from 2016 and terminate in 2022, we had short-term, medium, and long-term goals. And the 6-year plan, which had these goals, was meant to address 3 key issues: the impartation of skills to Nigerians, the addressing of service challenges, as well as also tackling some infrastructural deficit. And so based on these objectives, I can convincingly and unequivocally say that we have done excellently well. For example, regarding the impartation of vocational skills or the requisite skills to Nigerians, we are able within this period to equip Nigerians up to about 500,000, over 500,000 of Nigerians with requisite skills for employability and entrepreneurship. And from our monitoring and evaluation, as well as our tracking systems, I can attest to you that we've been able to identify that over 80% of these Nigerians have either been able to set up on their own as employers of labor or entrepreneurs, or have become very useful in their paid employment. And also, in order to address and achieve these goals as contained in a policy document, we equally expanded the existing skills acquisition programs, and we introduced several other new initiatives. Another achievement which I consider cogent also would be the reduction in infrastructure deficits. To that extent, we were able to identify that a lot of abandoned projects were left lying fallow by past administrations. And so we were able to complete them. In the first quarter of this year, 6 of them were commissioned by our honorable ministers, Otumba Richard Adeni Adebayo, CON, and Ambassador Mariam Yalwaji Katagum. And as I speak with you, we have already completed 7 additional projects that are ready for commissioning before the end of this year. We also established area offices within this period at Rumokota in Rivers State, at Abakaliki in Ebonyi State, at Badagry in Lagos, at Gwagwalada in Abuja, and we equally upgraded the Lafia Collection Center to be a full-fledged area office. So we believe that for us to achieve...
Sorry, permit me to come in here. If we allow you to go on with the achievement, we might not be able to ask any other question today. So let's just see if we can chip in a couple of questions. You've talked about, so if I was going to score you on a scale of 10 over 10, what would it be?
Scale of...
Nyota, this is a rather tricky question to answer, as human beings are meant or are sometimes subjective when asked to assess themselves. Nevertheless, as an organization with huge clientele, feedbacks to us are very important. And from the feedbacks that we have received and the impression of our clients, I can confidently say, that the impact has been positive, both on the economy and on the people of Nigeria as a nation. Indeed, in appreciation of the services of the fund within this period, the ITF was named as a star partner, regarding the micro, small, and medium enterprises development in Nigeria. Again, in 2019, precisely in August 2019, the ITF again received the Award of Excellence for Outstanding MSMEs Clinic Partner by the federal government. And that certificate itself was signed by the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON. And so in direct answer to your question, I would give ourselves a modest 8 even though some other people would score us higher.
You know, sorry, if I was a lecturer or a teacher, I'll be wondering why you be giving yourself it since I am supposed to be the invigilator of this exam. But let's put that to one side and look at something else. You were talking about tracking and monitoring system. I would really like to find out how that works, because you talked about the number of people that have been skills have been imparted to and how this is impacting on the economy. You give yourself 8/10. But how do you track and monitor to ensure that the skills that are imparted are imbibed and they are being used and effectively so?
Thank you very much. You know, the ITF prides itself as a 3 E's organization. The first E is the fact that it has an expansive network. The second E is that the workforce is experienced, and so we have great expertise, which is the third E. And so with the expansive network, you find us in 44 area offices across the country, one of the key federal government agencies with such a spread. And so it is easier to link up with those we train. Secondly, we are in great partnership, thanks be to God, to the ease of doing business policy of the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari. We have handshake with many organizations, including also the state governments. And so we go down, and in our own information management system in the organization, since the automation of business processes is part of our idea, we are able to easily get across to all the trainees using the area offices in these 44 locations and getting all the contacts. By the way, by the time we train Nigerians, we're able to have their contacts, their addresses, phone numbers, account details, etc., etc. And so it's very easy to track them and to see how they fare. Another thing that makes it very plausible for us to access contacts with them is the fact that we're able to form our trainees into cooperatives. And the essence is to drive it to another level of a program that is under the aegis of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, known as NEDEP. NEDEP goes for National Enterprise Development Program. And in that program, the ITF takes care of the skills component. SMIDAN takes care of the cooperatives, and Bank of Industry does the financing. So this tripartite arrangement makes it very possible for entrepreneurs to grow in their businesses.
Now, Sir Harry, the federal government recently came out with the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan. Where does ITF fit in all of this? And what's the role of ITF?
Thank you very much, Alero. The Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan is also part of the federal government's response to this noisome pestilence of COVID-19 on the economy, on the people, and on governments generally, not just particular or peculiar to Nigeria, but the world over, as we have seen. And from that document, there are 9 key result areas that come to the fore, including also structural vulnerability, the real sector measures, and so on and so forth. But when we took a look at the 9 components in sustainability plan, we discovered that they have direct bearing even on the mandate of the ITF. I give you an example on the agribusiness and all the agricultural value chain. The ITF had already, in the new document that we developed recently, identified that. And as a matter of fact, we had sent our staff, 60 of them, to the Galilee International Management Institute in Israel. And they had already come back with all of them trained in the various agricultural value chain, be it crop production, international marketing, storage, manure, and so on and so forth. And so we had already set in motion, initiatives to use the arable land of the ITF in the various states of the Federation to have some kind of greenhouses approach in our training, the extension system. And therefore, the federal government's sustainability plan comes in handy and readily available for us to actualize our mandate. So we are on course with the federal government's initiative. Like I said, the direction given by the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari is the direction to go. The socio-economic diversification and industrialization policy. It creates a clear pathway for an enabling environment in business to survive. And in our own case, we discovered that we are in tandem with the federal government. And so the bulk of that sustainability plan has direct bearing on our mandate. And the ITF has already been proactive in setting in place, some steps and initiatives to address, the pandemic or the challenges caused by the pandemic.
Let's begin to wind down this conversation here. But you had a skills summit. One will be wondering why you'll be putting together a skills summit. But okay, so you did, and it's the first one at that. Were you satisfied with the outcome of that summit? And what are you going to do with the results you got from that, you pulled from there?
Yeah, Nyota, it is true. Precisely on the 12th of March this year, we organized the first ever skills summit in Nigeria and at the Eradua Center in Abuja. And the essence of that was to bring in all the experts of skills development, be they in the academia, in private and public sectors of our economy. And the reason why that was done was because we realized that we were operating in silos. All the components and the experts of skills development were operating at disparate levels. And therefore, we've not had the desired impact to translate into concrete reality for our economy and for our people. And like I said, the Skills Summit, which was the first of its kind, was intended, therefore, to provide a veritable platform, to articulate specific strategies for developing employable skills in our country, to apply best practices in aspects of skills development, to spotlight, some topical issues, and to ensure that we generally harmonize our operations so that Nigeria will be the better for it. And going by with regards to your second question, I would say that we were very impressed with the outcome of the summit, as it had in attendance the Vice President of the Federal Republic, who was ably represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, our two ministers, Otumba Richard Adeni Adebayo, CON, and Ambassador Mariam Katagum, were there, as well as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohamed Bello. They were all there. Experts from the academia, from various institutions of technical and vocational skills were there. And I have no doubt in my mind that from what came out of that summit, we are on the right path towards economic recovery and growth. For example, we agreed at that summit that there was need to register Nigeria in the World Skills Competition. It is a sad commentary that up till now, Nigeria is not yet a member of the World Skills Competition. And there are many benefits derivable from being a member of such a body. And so these are also some of the goodies thrown up by that summit. And once Nigeria becomes a member of the World Skills Competition or skills body, we are able to leverage and benchmark the current trends in skills development across the globe. And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sir Joseph N. Ari. I'm sure if we had the whole day, We will not have enough time to talk about all that ITF has been able to achieve. But you have someone, let me just read this to you. John Eko Ugiagbe is recommending you for a next level of appointment. He says you've done a good job. He's one of the trainees at the ITF, John Eko Ugiagbe. Well done, Sir Joseph Ntung Ari, who's the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund. Thank you for sharing your morning with Sunrise today.
My pleasure having me.
All right, Sunrise, we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now we're going to look at an issue that is sad, and it'll remind one of the plight of Nigeria Airways workers. And I think Nigeria Airways workers have been sorted out now.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Well, this case involves ex-PHCN staff and their overdue emolument. 7 years ago, the power holding company of Nigeria, PHCN, was privatized, and some of its staff were laid off. They are here today to tell us about what they've been going through, their plight since that layoff, and their pursuit in trying to get their outstanding benefits. They'll be joining us from our studio in Abuja, Engineer Mohammed Bello, who's an electrical engineer. Good morning. And we also have Sunday Oyisi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. Engineer Bello, we understand that you have made some effort to try and get what is actually due to you. Can you just talk us through what you have done so far?
Thank you. First, let me thank Chinese TV for having me or us on show. Actually, since the privatization of power holding company, where my people have gone through a lot, some of them whom have died now, who have lost due to lack of financial support to maybe cater for their medication and health. Some cannot even pay their children's school fees. And the sad part of it is that the union, who is supposed to fight for us, have been somehow quiet these days. There's lack of communication gap between we, the ex-PHCN staff, and the union. So I would like to use this opportunity to appeal to the federal government, President Muhammadu Buhari, to please kindly extend his hand of wonder to the ex-PHCN staff, just like as he has done to the ex-railway, the ex-airway, and even the ex-Biafran soldiers. President Buhari, we're appealing to you to please come to our aid. Pay the ex-PHCN staff their overdue entitlements. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Oyisi, what I wanted to know was actually what kind of engagements you've had with the new management or the government regarding your entitlements, and what the reaction has been from the other side up to this point.
Yes, thank you. Our body, our union, the NUI, has been in contact and fighting for this thing, for this money since the privatization. But along the line, there is a communication breakdown between we, the ex-staff, and the union. And recently, there is an agreement of 60 days. 60 days, they were about to declare a strike for this money, and government
pleaded for 60 days that so that they will enable them for things to be put in order and money be paid, and the money be paid to us. 60 days has elapsed since 10th of April. Nothing has been heard. Union has not briefed us. And people are dying. People are dying. People are sick. Our children are out of school. We have nothing to live by. Coupled with this pandemic, that the economy of the world is shutting down, our people are experiencing hardship. And so we take it upon ourselves now as members of ex-staffs to come here and appeal to the government and its agencies and to the public to help us press this payment so that we will be able to enjoy the labor of our hands while we are still alive. The union has been trying, other bodies like the Gallant team and every on personal ground, they have been trying to make sure that this money is paid, but we don't know the forces that are behind it. We don't know what is happening. There is no communication. Nobody is telling us anything. And that is why we, the ex-staffs, ordinary ex-staffs, have come on this program tonight, this morning, to air our view and to appeal to the government and everybody concerned, especially the BPE, Bureau of Public Enterprises, to help us out and pay us our benefits.
Engineer Bello, what exactly are the ex-staff of the PHCN asking for? What are those emoluments that you say are outstanding?
We have 7.5 counterpart payments, which the federal government is set to remit into our RSA. RSA is retirement saving account. It is only the employee, the employee, who paid 7.5, our own part. Federal government didn't pay this, so he's set to pay his own part, or our own part. Then second one is 16 months. 16 months in a sense that there was delay before handing over the PHCN to the company. This delay, lapsed up to 16 months. So the calculation of this month was not included into the emolument paid to us then. Then thirdly, there's an equity share. The equity share is like a share that we, the staff, will have 10% equity of the company that is taken over from the from PHCN. But surprisingly,
Bello, just hold your thoughts there a moment. We'll have to interrupt you here to go on a quick break, but we'll come back and you pick it up from that point. Let's know exactly what the demands of the ex-PHCN staff are. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Engineer Bello, you were talking about the demands of the ex-PHCN staff. You talked about payment of the deductions, pension deductions. You said it's only the staff that have paid the 7.5. Government hasn't paid their own counterpart, part of it. You talked about 10% equity share. That's where you were before we went on that break. That the ex-staff are supposed to have 10% equity share of the company that takes over. Yeah, what are the other demands you're talking about again?
Okay, apart from the one I've just listed, we still have pre-retirement training benefits or training program, which was not included during the privatization or while they were collating the payments. So we're supposed to be paid this money. The money for the training is expected to be paid to individual staffs so as to go and prepare for pre-retirement from the former PHCN and while switching to the new company. So this money was not paid. Then lastly, there's another one which is insurance. The insurance package was not paid as well. So this money is like 70% of the money of the emoluments we're supposed to pay. So like 30% was just paid to us, and we have 70% or something like that left. So we are appealing to the government to please come to our aid and pay this money without any further delay.
Has the government responded to any of these calls?
Okay, actually, yes, they have. I have gotten message from the presidency, though they are carrying out some finding right now as I speak to you or as I talk to you, and I'm waiting for their response. So the letter I wrote, I drafted it, wrote it, and published it online. So I'm waiting for their conclusion. After their finding, I'm expecting them, waiting for them to get back to me. Thank you.
In other words, they have not responded yet, but they did have discussions with your unions before now.
Yeah, well, that is correct, that they have discussion with my union, but my letter, the open letter is sent to the president, or I addressed to the president. I sent them a copy. I sent the State House a copy, which the special advisor to the presidency have gotten. I've noted it, and currently carrying out finding to get back to me in person on behalf of XPHN staff. Just like I said earlier, the union for now, there's communication gap between we, the XPHN staff, and the union. And this is why I personally, on behalf of 50,000 XPHN staff, is taking the battle on. And I believe with the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, I am hopefully sure that without further delay, he will do something and immediately. Thank you.
Mr. Oisi, did the staff who were laid off receive any redundancy pays 7 years ago?
Hello? You said the staff who were paid off?
The staff who were laid off, did they receive any redundancy fees? Any redundancy payment?
Yes, there is a payment. There is a payment that they have made in September 2013. But after then, we discovered that there are some other payments, like we have just listed, that were not paid, which we were supposed to receive at that time. So it's this balance of our entitlement that we are agitating for.
Will the Ministry of Labor, or whoever it is, actually sit down and have discussions with you, since they have been liaising with your unions before now? Do you think that they'll be prepared to talk to you as opposed to talking to your union?
Yeah, our union is the body that is representing us. The NUI is the body that is representing us. Now, but like as my colleague says, there have been communication gap between us and the union. The union is not furnishing us with informations on how they have gone, what they have done, when is this money coming in, and we don't know exactly what is happening. And people are dying. We are suffering. We are suffering. Our children are out of school. If not for this pandemic, as we're talking about, many of our children have been out of school for a very long time. House rent, when we were working, we were not opportune to have housing loan, car loan, or whatever as others. Now, we depend on this little thing that has accumulated for us, for we to be able to meet up with life challenges. And this money is not coming. This is 7 years now. This is 7 years. The last time they pay us that money was September 2013. And things are getting out of hand. And me and my colleague, we decided to come up on this platform to appeal appeal to the federal government and to the public and to the agencies that are responsible for this money to be paid.
See, have you reached out to the union at all to ask questions? And if you have, what has the union said?
Yes, we have reached out to them. We have reached out to them, and they keep on promising that they are on it, they are on it, they are on it. Until recently, there is no more communication between us. Even on the NUI platform, on Facebook, if you get there, the last time they update us with any information is January. January. So since after the 60 days that has elapsed, we have been expecting them to say something. Although they have been trying, Nigeria has been trying, the General Secretary has been trying, he has declared strike 2 times, and he is like he's overwhelmed. And so we decide to take it upon ourselves to come and even air to the public. Maybe somebody out there will be able to help us to get this thing done with. We are suffering.
Declared strike. But you all are ex-staff. So what is the strike supposed to achieve?
Some of our members are still working with the new company.
So you intend to call them out to go on strike on your behalf?
The new company, and this thing
the plan is to call. The plan is to call out your people who are still working with these new companies, call them to go on strike on your behalf. Is that the plan?
Yes. The union called them, and they went on strike on our behalf, at least for a warning strike for 1 week. And the speaker, House of Rep, the Speaker House of Rep intervened and promised that he will make sure that this money is paid. But since then, nothing has been done. I don't know if it is because of the pandemic. I don't know if it is because of the economic situation of the nation. But nobody has come out to say this is what is delaying it. This is what we have discussed. This is when the money will be paid. Nobody has come out to tell us anything. So we are waiting for our union. Different body has risen, especially the Gallant team and other bodies. They have risen. Even recently, there is a registration of a body, association of former PSN staff, to fight for this money. There are so many people that are fighting for this thing, but nobody actually came out to say this is what. This is where we are. This is what we have gone to Berekete family, and he has promised to work on it. Since then, nothing. We don't know the forces that is behind this money. We don't know what is our sin. We have served our country meritoriously for years. All of our youthful years, we have used it to serve this country, and we are expected to enjoy the fruit of our labors. So I don't know what is holding this money. So we want to use the media to help us to plead with the government and its and her agencies to help us to collect this money. We don't have power to go on strike. We don't have power to do anything. We are depending on the union and every other body concerned to help us. But there is this communication gap. We don't know what is happening exactly. So that is why we are here this morning on the behalf of the retired, of the disengaged PSN staff to plead or to appeal to government and her agencies, especially BP, to help us, and NEMCO to help us and pay this money so that we will not lose our families.
Engineer Bello, if this appeal you've done now with this question is to Engineer Bello. You said you took this upon yourself with some other people to fight on behalf of your colleagues, the ex-staff of the PHCN. In 2019, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, intervened in your letter. That's what you quoted in your letter. Now it's over 150 days since that intervention. what's the guarantee that anything will come forth? And what's your deadline? Is there a deadline you're looking at?
First, the guarantee is that I have assurance on the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari that is going to do something as long it gets to his ear. And that is exactly why I direct the letter to him. Then secondly, because it is the first time I personally will be taking this issue on behalf of my colleague, I haven't set a deadline yet. I might do that if or depend on what the response from the presidency is to me. But I'm having assurance, 100% assurance that as soon this issue is being relayed to President Buhari, he will definitely do something. So again, I'm appealing that this money should be paid to us without any further delay. Thank you.
We can do now is just to wish you good luck, and it's a pity that you're going through tough times. After all the years you put in to work for PHCN, we wish you all the best, and we do hope that the President does respond and that your emoluments are paid to you as soon as possible. Engineer Mohammed Bello and Mr. Sunday Oyisi, both ex-PHCN staff. Thank you very much for coming to intimate us of this particular issue. Sunrise will be right back in just a moment with the home stretch. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Artist of the Week is first won the said he won the third edition. Is it third edition? He won in 2002 the Benson and Hedges Golden Tones Talent Hunt Show from his then base in Benin City in Edo State. But now he is based in Europe. Victor Mudiaga Egara, I hope I got that, Egagara. You got me there, Victor. Victor Mudiaga Egagara is with the moniker Most Wanted. Came to the limelight in 2002 after he won the Benson and Hedges Golden Tones Talent Hunt Show. Now he's based in Europe. He's Most Wanted, aka Mustard Seed, a hip-hop Afrobeat artist from Delta State. Victor, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Fine. Thank you very much.
The weather there looks real cool, bright and shiny and sunny too.
Yeah, it's summertime over here, and people are having a holiday. I'm actually in a holiday with my family in about 2 hours and 30 minutes drive from Helsinki. And it feels good to be here.
Not wearing a mask.
The coronavirus case over here have not been so in an escalation situation, because right from the moment Finland heard about the disease, they put preventive measures like sitting at home and stuff like that. People adhere. Obviously, we're living in a society where the government can, come subsidize and make it easy for you to stay at home. So people stayed at home. As of today, we have less than 500 deaths, with about maybe 4,000 or 5,000 infected. And so it's not so much like here. Like if you go to the street of Helsinki or Finland, people are living normally. Of course, there are still restrictions, like the time they open the bar and the time the bar closed at 11 o'clock. Now they are extending it to 2 o'clock. There isn't up the street restriction, but generally it was not too much here, so we didn't feel like, for me, I was working all through the time. Of course, so many people were sitting at home, but I was an essential worker, so I was working through all the time. We have gears to protect ourselves, but generally, like I said, it was not too much here. The coronavirus, the people adhered to restriction from the very beginning, and it has helped the situation over here.
So in 2002, you and your group won the last edition of the Benson and Hedges Golden Tones, and then you came third. And after that, you've had to release your first album titled Street Life, with one of the major tracks there, Shayo, and some other tracks that came out from that album. But you went quiet. Why did you go quiet after that, Sadaf?
Yeah, after we released our album in Benin City and we moved to Lagos 2005, 2006, when we got to Lagos, we felt, okay, we left Benin because we felt we have conquered the South. We wanted to go to the center where you can break through the whole world. But when we got to Lagos, we realized it's not as I would think about it. First of all, surviving in Lagos, taking care of yourself, having a roof over your head, that kind of took a whole lot of time. And by the time we were able to put our legs on the ground, a whole lot of things have changed with me and my partner. And then we went each our separate ways. Then it took another time for me to be able to put things together by myself. And that's what, until 2009, that I released a single called Alone. It talks about how I have to believe in myself, how every human, how we have to realize that even though we got help from brothers, sisters, society, it is on us to do what we want from us, only us, all through life. We individually walk through our journey. We meet people as we go, our kids, our family, our wife, our colleagues, but we are by ourselves 24 hours of the day. Nobody spends the time. So it's on us, like what we really need from life to get it. And that was what that song stands for. So it was a comeback for me as of 2009. And then I continued, I met a friend, Jackie Sula. We had, of course, my friend from back in the hood, he came from Europe. He wanted to open a record studio. We had this, then I was collaborating with him as the manager. We had Vegas Records. And that kind of helped my career on the ground because, like I said, as a musician in Lagos, Nigeria, if you don't have a backing of the record company or already established artists, it's quite difficult to break through, except you have the big monies for promotion and stuff like that. So it took a while. But today I'm quite grateful for how far I've come, and I'm still doing music with all of the growth I have grown, with all of the education I've gotten. And to me, it's just a blessing. 18 years since 2002 to still be doing music, because so many people have felt bad due to situations, life situation. Not that they don't have the talent, but for me to still be doing it in my capacity, I think I'm quite appreciative of it, and I believe the year is still ahead for me.
You said something about 2002, 2009, 2013. You didn't talk about 2013 though, but you've said something consistently about the education you've gotten. What kind of education did you have to go for? I mean, you've come out, you've become a star, but you had to go quiet and go back to school. What kind of education did you have to go for?
Yeah, after I joined collaboration with Vegas Records, we started putting out songs as a record company. So in 2013, I did a single titled Sikeme, and I flew to South Africa to shoot the video. And we did promotion, and it was quite big. That was that's probably one of the biggest songs I've had as an Afrobeat artist in Nigeria. It was big. We did promotion and all of that. Then 2000, then I released Welcome to Lagos, Kwe to the Sikeme, because I was beginning to get recognition, and my song was getting big, playing gig and stuff. But Welcome to Lagos then was a song that talk about people were being deported. As of 2018, Fashola was the governor, and he was so on ground, like, shout out to Governor Raji Fashola. For the first time in my life, I saw a government that was working intentionally to fix the system. I never knew, until that time, that the government can decide to let us fix things, and things can actually be fixed. So it was doing so much, but also in the bid of trying to clean up the society, there was a discussion about deporting destitute people who were not engaged in the proper work of Lagos. So it was a big uproar, and different governors was talking about it. How can we all Nigerians? So that got to me. I was watching it actually in Chinese news. That story then. So it was a news line. So I took it upon myself. I started writing about Lagos. You know, I found out the history. So that song was what brought it. I released it. I wrote to the Ministry of Interior and Federal Port Authority about promoting Lagos, about how we can, you know, promote ourselves. The story not been told by foreigners, you know, and it was acknowledged. And they asked me to go get my proper proposal, what I want to do, like my promotion strategy and stuff. Before I came to Europe 2014, but I was brought to Europe for a Europe tour. At the end of the tour, I moved to Finland, and since then, from 2014 to now, it has been growth for me. I realized when I got to Europe that the industry was not here, even though when you come from Nigeria, you appreciate it, you play gigs, but as an artist surviving here as a musician, it's almost not impossible, even up till now, because we don't have the industry, we don't have the population. Of course, this is the foreign land as much as we have back home getting gigs. So I felt, okay, I can learn the business side of the music. And video production over the years for me has been an expensive thing, you know, paying so much to do a video. I actually brought Mo Musa here on my first video live. He just played, shout out to Mo Musa, shot that video. And I felt, okay, if I can learn video production, it could help me as a musician, some part of it. So I went into school. I studied media in the college year, and I graduated in last year, 2019. And I have my own media imprint. I provide promotional materials, video, advertisement, documentary, and so on. And it has helped me to stay in the music. This video was also shot. The video I just dropped, Welcome to Lagos, was also directed, you know, scripted, edited by me. So it's growth for me. It's helping me to stay in the music, and it's also helping me to make money as an entrepreneur, as a cinematographer, or as a media degree or graduate owner.
Now, Victor, Finland seems to be okay. Yeah, we need to take a break now. We shall return in just a moment and continue this conversation.
Thank you, and thank you for staying with us. Alaire, you're going to ask a question.
Yes, Victor, Finland seems to be an odd choice for a Nigerian. Why did you choose Finland?
I wasn't going to stay in Europe at the end of my tour, but there was a situation, and when I eventually decided to stay, I wanted to go to where there are not too much black people, not for any particular reason, but I felt I wanted to concentrate, you know. And Finland, of course, to me, I made this research about the place and the educational system, the living standard, and I think it was a good choice for me. So far, I've been living here 6 years, but in these 6 years, obviously, I've been to Nigeria 4 times, so I've not been too far from Nigeria because I had a strong connection and I have so many things going on, and I still hope to, you know, someday have a strong root base in Nigeria in the nearest future. But Finland, I felt, okay, I've done music for so many years. I could, the friend that I had here, I asked him if I could. I also wanted to have a family, and I knew having a family back here would be much easier, you know, to take care of my family, because like I said, as for many Nigerians, it's quite difficult, you know, taking care of your basic amenities in all ramifications. So Finland has so many advantages, like here in education, here, if you have a permit to live in Finland, education to any standard, it's free, and you are funded even as a student. You get grants as a student to take off your bills, you know, a very reasonable amount. In my 4 years of studying here, I was paid, if I tell you the amount, you will not even believe it. So it was a good opportunity. I felt after making my research, I decided to take the decision. And like I said, it's been a good opportunity.
Okay, Victor, just a quick one as we wind down. What's in the works for you? What's the plan?
The plan for me as a musician and now as a media guy is to continue doing music. I hope to drop a body of work in the nearest future, not so long, probably when I'm officially 20 on live, 20 years doing music. And but I'm also dabbling full-time into media, because I feel in my few years of being in media, I've seen growth. I've seen people like my job, and I'm getting more clients. So I think I'm going more into media as time goes, probably into movie or general media, video production, advertisement. That I think is what I'm saying. But you never can tell. I still have people still talking about, like a record company over here was talking after I released Welcome to Lagos just a few days ago, talking about making a deal with me with my music. So I'm just going to be going along as this energy and this opportunity comes. Be a musician and as a media guy, I'm going to be taking them side by side, and I definitely believe the best is still ahead for me as an entertainer and as a media person in the entertainment industry.
Thank you very much, Victor Mudiaga Egagara, aka Most Wanted, aka Mustard Seed. Thank you for sharing your day with us, and we wish you well in all your endeavors.
Thank you very much for having me, Chinese Television. I can tell you all over the world, Chinese Television is the biggest television that people watch online. For me, I don't have time to watch TV, but almost every day I watch Newsline from 10 o'clock. I'm definitely till the news, at least the news every day, and it keeps on till I fall asleep. So Chinese Television, you guys are doing so much. The standard, you are keeping and the quality. We appreciate you from all over as Nigerian, and to all speaking for all Nigerians abroad. You are doing so much. Thank you for the information. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the professionalism that you guys are putting in. We pray more grace to your elbow, and that you will move from strength to strength. And as time goes on, you will not only be the best in the past 14 years, you have been winning the best television station of the year. You will also come top in Africa and indeed the rest of the world. Thank you for having me, Chinese Television.
Thank you very much, Victor Mudia, a.k.a. Most Wanted, a.k.a. Mustard Seed. And this is where we will draw the curtains.
Today.
For today.
But we'll be back next Saturday. Alera, I do wishing you a wonderful weekend and a week of nice rains and cool weather.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And reduced coronavirus infections, hopefully, as we wear our mask, stay home unless you must move. But please do reach out to one another. Find out how someone is doing. Make a phone call, send a text. If you don't have to go, you don't need to go, but send a text, make a phone call. I'm Neo Taigbe, wishing you all the best. Bye-bye.